watching Thrifty Kaniffy. Hello everyone and welcome to Thrifty Kaniffy. We're going to be looking at an old-timer knife today, guys. This is the 33OT. Okay, model number 33OT. And that would be the Middleman Jack. So I've got a new Battenfield made Chinese version, and I've also got an American made version we're going to be looking at today. Here's the Battenfield box. Again, made in China. Get your cancer warning there, and www.aob.com, which stands for American Outdoor Brands. The new owners of the brand of Old Timer. And here is a look at the new Chinese one here. Alright, and we're going to compare that to this American made one. Now the American one made has the 1095 carbon blades, and I can't date this precisely, but it's the version of the knife that has the 2 lines of tang stamp, not 3, so it's a little more recent than some of the older style. And it just says Schrade USA 33OT. So you get the 2-line tang on this one. I'd say the pull on this one's about 6.5, and you get a pretty good pull on that main blade. Secondary pin blade, maybe about a 5. And on our Chinese made, we have a pull of about a 7 on that blade, and maybe about a 5.5 on the pin blade. Now you'll notice that the finish on these carbon steel blades has a little more of a mirror finish. Now this is not a brand new old stock knife. It has had some use, but I do believe that the sharpening was at a minimum, if any. And you do get a little bit of pitting on the knife to kind of show you that there is definitely some 1095 blades on these. Now when they were being produced there at the end of Schrade's the original Schrade's run at 2004, I've been told that they did start putting stainless steel blades on a lot of these knives because they were being sold at Walmart, and those people didn't have an appreciation for the knife and were complaining that they were rusting, so they were putting stainless blades on all their a lot of their patterns, at least the ones that they were selling at the larger retail outlets, because people were returning a bunch of knives because they were rusting, because they didn't understand that they were 1095 carbon. But I guess they apparently started putting stainless blades on some of their patterns and not marking them Schrade Plus. Now traditionally you had been any of the stainless blades they put in Schrade Plus on, but apparently there were some knives that were not marked Schrade Plus that were actually stainless. So you don't know exactly the blade material you get if you start diving into some of the more recent original Schrade knives. But I do believe this one is 1095. Just kind of the color of it and the fact that it's got some pitting on it, you can kind of just get a sense that these are definitely the 1095 carbon blades. But if we look closely at the handles and we just kind of compare the differences between the old and the new, this is a little narrower knife, much like some of the others I've looked at. This is just a little more refined. The edges are more rolled over. If you look at the bolsters, the corners here are more rolled over. Just got some more refinement than the modern ones. Now again, when Schrade sold, they did not sell their equipment. They just sold the name to the new manufacturers of Schrade. So they never had all the tooling and everything to recreate these knives 100% as they were. So they just basically had to come up with their own tooling and kind of remanufacture the same knives based on new tooling. So they won't be identical in shape, but they are close. You can see here, if we look at the handles together, you can see the corners of these are just a lot more squared off, and the bolsters you can see is almost flat at the top if we compare it to this one. Much more rolled over. So it's just some differences there, you know, in terms of the shape, but they tried to do their best to kind of recreate it. But the height of this one will be a little wider, and you can see that the knife overall pretty similar. Pretty similar. I think the blade of this sticks up just a touch more. But nail nicks are pretty much in the same place, and you'll see that the blade shapes are pretty similar. This one has a little more body to it. Now you gotta understand this was probably sharpened a few times. I don't think it's been much of the material's been taken away by sharpening. That looks like the standard size it was in the beginning, but also the blade angles are slightly different. You get a little more downward angle on that opened up clip blade there. Nail nicks are slightly different. You get a little more depth in the nail nick on this one than you do this one. And but the blade shapes are pretty close. There's just a little more body to this one. And again, I don't think I would attest that to just this one being sharpened either. It was just larger to begin with. Now, if you look at the Chinese made one, you just have Schrade there, and that's a good indicator that it's Chinese when you just have the Schrade on the one side, and then you'll have the model number on the back. Here you can see 33OT. There's a look at the original grind on it. I've not sharpened this, so this is straight out of the box. And get that satin finish. There again is the blade edge. No half stops on these or anything. Again, good snap on that. It's about 7. All right, let's take a look at the clip blade and kind of compare those. They are much more similar in shape than the clip blade. Now, these are nearly identical. You get a little more of a gentle slope at the end here. If you look at the two blades, this is a little more of a generous curve here on this one. So just that tip of it is really about the only difference I'm seeing. Just a more gentle slope on this one and a more aggressive slope on that one on the very tip of it. But they're very similar. And again, the nail nicks are just slightly different in depth. This one just a little deeper groove in it. So again, they're very similar. But if you're looking for the carbon style blades and you're looking for a little more refinement, the American ones always seem to be just that touch better. You can see the blades are a little better positioned in there than the Chinese one's got a little more of a gap between the two blades. So it's probably just slightly wider overall. Not by much, maybe half a mil or something like that, but there is just a touch difference. You get a little more, looks like you get a little more blade stock on the Chinese one, so it might be a little more durable blade at the top here. Now they do, get that flat grind, so I don't know how much of an advantage that is there to have that much more blade steel, but it's pretty minimal. And if you look at the width of that blade, you'll find that that's just a slight touch wider than this one as well, but not by much. But good blade snap on these. I'm really happy with both. I just think for $18, if you're not one to go out and try to collect all the older style models, and you're just looking to get, something that has the sense of that old-timer feel, and I think they've done a really good job of recreating that. It's not something to be ashamed of, for sure, and I think a lot of the patterns that they're making out of China are representing the brand well, and not everyone's going to agree with me, and that's fine, but really just comes down, do you want to spend, $30, $40 for a slightly used one, maybe even like $60 for a new old stock one, I mean, they're going to vary in price quite a bit, even among the newer ones on eBay, just because there seems to be so many sales of them. It's hard to pin down an exact price, but I would say you pay between $40 to $65 for, a new old stock 33OT. A little more plentiful than some of the other patterns, so maybe that affects the price a little bit in your favor. The 34OT is definitely the most common, and you can maybe get a new old stock 34OT for less than you could a 33OT or many of the other patterns, just because they're so plentiful. But nonetheless, this was still a pretty popular pattern among the old timers. I think they sold fairly well. So again, about the only difference is you got the 2 blades on this compared to the Stockman, which had 3, but the handle shape seems to be pretty darn similar amongst those 2 models, just different configuration of blades. But I've been a big fan of a lot of the Chinese made ones, and this particular one seems to be done pretty well. You don't have any gapping or anything like that. Pretty well constructed, good blade stock, good pull on the blades. Gives you a lot of confidence to use that, and good blade shape. These are, I wouldn't say razor sharp. You're probably going to need to refine the blades a little bit if you want the best performance out of them, but they cut reasonably well. I've got a little bit of paracord here. We can kind of test the blade sharpness of this. I'm not going to think that's going to cut through there with a complete amount of ease, but with a couple of strokes you can get through that. So not going to be the sharpest knife that you've ever seen, but I've not done anything to hone it or refine the edge a little bit, and I bet you could. It'll take a pretty good edge with just a little bit of work. But that's going to do it for my review, guys. Again, just kind of pretty much the same kind of situation here with the new versus old, just a little more refinement. You get the carbon blades, but you're going to have to pony up a little bit for the cost if you want one, in this good a condition or better. And, those Chinese alternatives are going to be available to you for in that, $15 to $20 range generally. This one's no exception. This one's about $18. So, you can grab one of those if you don't want to fork out the money for an American one. But that's going to do it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell to be made aware of videos when they drop. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. You guys take care.